You think you know history, the timelines, the key figures, the grand narratives of civilizations rising and falling. But what if the story you've been told is missing its most ancient, most profound chapter? What if the very foundations of human understanding are built upon a selective silence? Sit back, relax, and let's journey into the shadowed corners of human memory, where forgotten truths might still reside, whispered among the dust motes of centuries. Deep within the heart of Rome, behind walls centuries old, lies a repository unlike any other, the Vatican Apostolic Archives. This is not simply a library, but a fortress of knowledge, a silent sentinel over a staggering collection of human history, stretching for over 50 miles of shelving, housing more than 1 million documents. Its very scale and inaccessibility create an aura of profound mystery. It's a place where time seems to slow, where every scroll and every bound volume holds a potential secret. The mainstream understanding acknowledges the archives as an invaluable historical record. Here, scholars can find papal bulls, diplomatic correspondence, personal letters of popes, and state papers from across Europe, dating back over 1,000 years. Historians often speak of its immense value for understanding medieval and early modern European ecclesiastical and political history, providing unparalleled insights into the machinations of power and faith. It is a treasure trove, meticulously catalogued, offering a rich tapestry of our documented past, a testament to human endeavor and the Church's enduring presence. But there's a problem with this conventional view. What if its true depths hide more than just the records of popes and kings? What if, nestled among these millions of documents, are echoes of a world long lost, a world before the flood? Could this guarded vault contain not just chronicles of known history, but fragments of an antiquity so profound it challenges everything we believe about our origins? Some researchers believe the Vatican's vaults could indeed house records stretching back further than commonly accepted history. Theories suggest that ancient texts, saved from cataclysms or transferred from vanished libraries, may have found their ultimate refuge here. Could these include original texts from the Library of Alexandria, or even older sources from civilizations predating Rome itself? Some historians speculate on a continuous thread of knowledge, passed down through various esoteric orders, or even directly through early Christian communities, who inherited wisdom from much older traditions. What if these archives hold not just copies, but original artifacts or interpretations of narratives that speak of a sophisticated, advanced global civilization that existed before the catastrophic deluge described in countless myths? The concept of a pre-flood world, often dismissed as mere mythology, takes on a new weight when considered alongside the Vatican's renowned secrecy. The official stance regarding the archive's contents is that everything is available to qualified scholars, albeit with strict access protocols and a 100-year rule for more recent documents. They describe it as a meticulously organized record of the Holy See's activities, not a repository of forbidden knowledge. Any rumors of hidden sections or undisclosed, ancient texts are largely dismissed as urban legends or conspiracy theories, an understandable response to an institution so old and so powerful. But there's a fundamental question that challenges this calm assurance. If the Vatican is truly only a repository of known church history, why the enduring mystique, the layers of security, and the persistent rumors that swirl around its more obscure holdings? The Church itself has historically played a dual role, both preserver and, at times, censor of knowledge. Could it be that certain texts, too disruptive to theological dogma or too challenging to the established timeline of human history, were simply deemed too sensitive for public consumption? The sheer volume of material, much of it uncatalogued for general access, leaves an immense space for the imagination to wander. What if the very act of preserving these records was also an act of selective concealment? Alternative theories often paint a more intriguing picture. Could the Vatican be a diligent custodian, not just of religious texts, but of global knowledge deemed too dangerous or destabilizing for humanity at large? Some believe that a lost civilization, perhaps one that possessed advanced technologies or a profound understanding of the cosmos, meticulously documented its existence. When faced with impending catastrophe, key fragments of this knowledge might have been entrusted to guardians, eventually finding their way into the hands of an institution with the power and longevity to safeguard them through millennia. Could these be maps of continents now submerged, or astronomical charts detailing celestial events from periods long before recorded observation? Perhaps the Church, with its deep-rooted belief in divine providence and apocalyptic narratives, felt a moral imperative to protect such truths, waiting for a time when humanity was deemed ready to comprehend them. The sheer potential of what might lie within those endless shelves is staggering. If the Vatican does hold tangible records, even fragments of a pre-flood world, it would force a complete reevaluation of humanity's true timeline, our technological capabilities in antiquity, and perhaps even our fundamental understanding of our own cyclical nature. It would reshape archaeology, theology, and our very sense of place in the vast sweep of time. The silence emanating from those ancient vaults, therefore, isn't just an absence of information. It is, for many, the very presence of a profound and enduring mystery. What if the most guarded secrets of humanity's genesis are not hidden in forgotten ruins or cryptic inscriptions, but meticulously preserved, silent and unseen, in the very heart of the eternal city? What does the Vatican truly know about humanity's most ancient past, and the civilization that perished beneath the deluge? The silence within the Vatican's shadowed vaults holds more than just paper and ink. It holds the potential for echoes, for whispers from a time long thought lost to the currents of history. As we carefully consider the potential for such hidden truths within its formidable archives, we must first confront the pervasive echoes of a world submerged, not just in water, but in the mists of human memory. We turn now to a story so ancient, so universal, that its very persistence across millennia might be its most profound secret. Across continents and through countless generations, a singular, haunting narrative persists. A great flood, a deluge that purged the world, leaving only a scattered few to restart civilization. From the sun-baked plains of ancient Sumer to the ice-kissed shores of indigenous North America, from the dense jungles of the Amazon to the soaring peaks of the Himalayas, cultures separated by vast oceans and impossible distances share a remarkably similar tale. There is the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, featuring Utnapishtim, warned by the gods to build a great boat and save all living creatures. In India, the Matsya Purana describes Manu, forewarned by the fish avatar of Vishnu, who directs him to build a ship and shelter the seeds of life from a coming inundation. The ancient Greeks speak of Deucalion and Pyrrha, surviving a Bronze Age flood sent by Zeus. Mesoamerican narratives, such as the Popol Vuh of the Maya and Aztec legends, also recount a universal flood that destroyed earlier iterations of humanity. Even the remote Aboriginal tribes of Australia carry stories of a time when the land was swallowed by the sea. This global tapestry of devastation and rebirth is not merely a curious coincidence. It is an anomaly that challenges our understanding of prehistory. Academics often categorize these widespread flood myths as universal archetypes, reflections of humanity's innate fear of water, or simply local catastrophic floods elevated to cosmic proportions. They suggest that riverine civilizations, prone to seasonal overflowing, would naturally develop stories of inundation. The argument posits that as human populations migrated and diversified, these foundational fears and experiences coalesced into shared narrative patterns, evolving independently to fit each culture's unique context and deities. The striking similarities, it is sometimes argued, are merely a testament to the limited ways in which early humans could interpret overwhelming natural phenomena, and the universal human need for origin stories and moral lessons. This mainstream interpretation provides a framework for understanding myth as a product of human psychology and environmental interaction, rather than as literal historical accounts. But there's a problem with this explanation: the precision of their similarities, the shared motifs of divine warning, ark construction, the saving of animals and seeds, the sending of a bird to find dry land, and the eventual repopulation of the earth, defy easy dismissal as independent invention. These are not vague, general inundations. They are highly specific narratives, often featuring heroes, vessels, and a deliberate act of preservation. How could the Sumerians, with their cuneiform tablets, craft a story so profoundly mirrored by Hindu scriptures or the oral traditions of the Cherokee, who had no known contact for thousands of years? The sheer number of these tales, over 500 documented globally, and their consistent narrative beats, suggest something far more profound than mere psychological resonance or isolated local events. They hint at a singular, shared experience, a collective memory of an event so monumental it seared itself into the genetic and cultural consciousness of early humanity, passed down through generations like a sacred trust. Could these not be mere stories, but fractured pieces of a collective memory, a global trauma imprinted upon the human psyche before humanity truly dispersed across the planet? Some researchers believe these myths are direct, albeit distorted, recollections of a singular, cataclysmic event that reshaped the Earth and culled a vast proportion of its inhabitants. Theories range from a rapidly melting ice sheet at the end of the last ice age, causing sudden and dramatic sea level rise, to a sudden impact event from a comet or asteroid that triggered immense tsunamis and atmospheric changes, leading to relentless rain. What if these legends are not merely symbolic, but represent a folk memory of a sophisticated pre-flood civilization that faced an inescapable doom? What if the warnings and the intricate details of ark building were not divine pronouncements but practical knowledge, passed down by those who foresaw the impending catastrophe, attempting to preserve a remnant of their world? This perspective transforms myth from fanciful storytelling into an encrypted historical record, awaiting its decipherment. If a single, devastating event lies at the heart of so many human creation myths, how could so many cultures, separated by vast oceans and millennia, tell essentially the same catastrophic story if it were not rooted in a singular, devastating event that truly defined the end of one age and the beginning of another? As we delve deeper into these shared narratives, the details themselves begin to speak of an age beyond our conventional understanding. It's not just the commonality of a flood, but the striking particularities woven into the fabric of these myths that truly baffle. Consider the precise dimensions and construction details of the ark in various accounts. In some, it's a perfectly cubic vessel. In others, it's built of specific materials with multiple decks and compartments. In many traditions, there are explicit warnings delivered to chosen individuals, giving them time to prepare. These are not vague dreams but often detailed instructions, implying a level of communication or foreknowledge that seems out of place for what we perceive as primitive societies. The Sumerian tablet describes Utnapishtim's ark as 7 stories high, each with 9 sections, sealed with bitumen. The Hindu text specifies a boat for Manu, guided by the divine fish, carrying him to safety. These narratives often include the preservation of seeds, or germs of all life, suggesting a conscious effort to restart civilization, not merely survive. Mainstream thought often interprets these specific details as symbolic narratives, religious allegories, or cautionary tales designed to impart moral lessons or reinforce cultural values. The dimensions of the ark might be seen as symbolic of cosmic order, the warnings as a literary device to underscore divine justice, and the preservation of life as a metaphor for renewal and hope. From this perspective, the stories are powerful cultural artifacts, reflecting the spiritual and ethical concerns of their tellers, rather than blueprints for forgotten vessels or literal accounts of past events. The idea that ancient people could possess detailed engineering knowledge or receive precise astronomical warnings is largely dismissed as anthropomorphic projection onto natural phenomena, or simply the creative embellishment of oral traditions over time. The hero of the flood story is a cultural archetype, representing humanity's resilience, not a historical figure with access to advanced information. But there's a problem with this explanation. The consistent presence of elements suggesting a highly advanced understanding of survival, engineering, or even prior warning systems challenges their reduction to mere symbolism. If these are just allegories, why do they so often include technical specifications or knowledge that seems surprisingly practical for an unimaginable disaster? Why do some myths speak of celestial omens preceding the flood, or mention specific changes in the sky? The sheer logistical challenge of building such vessels, gathering animals, and sustaining life for extended periods, as described, implies a level of organization, and perhaps even technology beyond simple rafts and survival instincts. The very concept of preserving seeds of knowledge, not just species, hints at a foresight that transcends typical disaster preparedness. Could these myths be not just recollections of an event, but also the fragmented memories of advanced antediluvian technologies or sciences that were employed in a desperate attempt to mitigate or survive the catastrophe? What if the divine warnings were not supernatural visions, but transmissions of scientific data from a sophisticated, pre-existing global network that monitored celestial events or geological shifts? Some alternative theories speculate that the antediluvian world possessed sciences we have yet to rediscover, perhaps related to energy generation, material science, or even climate control. The precise construction of certain mythical vessels, for instance, could reflect forgotten principles of hydrodynamics or stability. The idea of gathering seeds could refer to genetic banks or comprehensive archives of knowledge, not just agricultural stores. What if these stories are not just about survival, but about a frantic, organized effort by an advanced civilization? If these narratives are just allegories, why do they so often include details that seem to defy the primitive status of the societies telling them, hinting at a lost knowledge that enabled complex planning and a profound understanding of the coming cataclysm? This brings us to the profound and unsettling idea that a global catastrophe means we lost not just people and places, but an entire paradigm of knowledge, an antediluvian civilization that might have been far more advanced than our current understanding allows. Imagine a world where human ingenuity had reached heights we have yet to achieve, where sciences and technologies operated on principles we forgot. This lost world is suggested not only in flood myths, but also in archaeological anomalies that continue to puzzle mainstream historians. We find megalithic structures of impossible precision, ancient maps depicting continents as they looked during the last ice age, and artifacts that defy the technological capabilities of their supposed creators. These are not isolated incidents, but recurring patterns across the globe. The precise stone masonry of Puma Punku, the vitrified forts of Scotland, the impossible alignments of structures like Göbekli Tepe that predate known civilization. The mainstream view, deeply ingrained in our historical narrative, is that human civilization progressed linearly from primitive hunter-gatherer societies through gradual stages of agricultural development, culminating in our current technological prowess. Any advanced elements found in ancient accounts or archaeological sites are typically explained as either misinterpretations of simple tools, clever but rudimentary engineering, or the result of slow, incremental improvements over vast stretches of time. The idea of a highly advanced pre-flood civilization is largely dismissed as pseudoscience, lacking concrete, repeatable archaeological evidence. The assumption is that Such a civilization would leave undeniable traces, a continuous record of its existence and technological evolution, which has yet to be found. Therefore, any perceived anomalies are simply gaps in our current understanding, awaiting conventional explanation. But there's a problem with this explanation. The consistent appearance of out-of-place artifacts and engineering feats that seemingly jump ahead of their supposed historical timeline creates a significant challenge. How do we account for the incredible precision required to quarry and transport stones weighing hundreds of tons, or the astronomical alignments of structures built by cultures believed to lack advanced observational tools? The Peary Rise map, for instance, shows the coastline of Antarctica free of ice, a condition that hasn't existed for thousands of years. The Baghdad Battery, if it was indeed a galvanic cell, pushes back the timeline of electrochemistry by millennia. These are not simple tools. They are complex systems or representations of knowledge that appear without clear evolutionary precursors within the accepted historical record. They stand as silent witnesses to a level of understanding that doesn't fit the linear progression model. These anomalies fuel alternative theories that speculate on antediluvian mastery of sciences such as acoustics, geomancy, levitation, or even forms of free energy. What if the mythical golden ages, or periods where gods walked among men, were not just poetic metaphors, but veiled references to a highly advanced human civilization that understood the fundamental forces of the universe? Some suggest that ancient texts hint at the use of sound to manipulate stone, or the harnessing of telluric currents for energy. Could this lost knowledge explain the precision of ancient structures without the need for impossibly sophisticated machinery, or the ability to navigate the globe before the invention of the compass? These theories posit that after the Great Catastrophe, this advanced knowledge was almost entirely wiped out, leaving only scattered remnants and distorted memories to baffle future generations, forcing humanity to essentially restart its technological development from a much lower base. If humanity truly started from scratch after such a devastating global event, how do we explain these isolated pockets of impossible knowledge or construction that seem to defy their supposed historical context, hinting at a forgotten intellectual zenith? The sheer scale and uniformity implied by the global flood myths point to an event far beyond regional flooding, a planetary reset, a reordering of land and sea that fundamentally altered the Earth's surface. These myths speak of mountains disappearing, new lands rising, and a sky darkened for an unimaginable period. This is not just a river overflowing, it is a world drowned, a complete resculpting of the planet's features. The consistent memory of such a profound geological transformation across disparate cultures suggests a shared catastrophe of unimaginable magnitude, a universal trauma written into the very landscape of our planet. Mainstream geology primarily supports gradualist explanations for Earth's features, emphasizing processes that unfold over millions of years, such as plate tectonics, erosion, and slow sea level changes, while acknowledging evidence of significant regional floods and ice age meltwater events. The scientific consensus generally dismisses the idea of a single, rapid, global inundation event on the scale described in flood myths. Geological records, it is argued, do not show a distinct, synchronous layer of global flood deposits. Instead, they reveal a complex history of localized inundations, shifts in climate, and long periods of stability, making a single, worldwide deluge seem inconsistent with observed geological evidence. The vast depths of the oceans and the height of mountain ranges, for example, are presented as insurmountable obstacles for a single flood to cover the entire globe. But there's a problem with this explanation. Emerging scientific research and anomalous geological formations continue to challenge purely gradualist interpretations, suggesting that rapid, catastrophic events may have played a much larger role in shaping Earth's history than previously acknowledged. The discovery of vast, deeply incised submarine canyons that appear to be carved by immense, rapidly flowing currents, not slow erosion, hints at powerful hydrological events on an unimaginable scale, evidence of massive, continent-spanning megatsunami deposits in coastal regions that defy explanation by conventional seismic activity, or the presence of rapidly deposited sedimentary layers containing fossils from diverse ecosystems mixed together, suggests sudden and violent changes, rather than slow accumulation. Furthermore, the persistent questions surrounding the formation of certain mountain ranges and plateaus, or the abrupt end of the last ice age with its rapid meltwater surges, provide tantalizing clues that defy easy, gradualist explanations. These observations fuel alternative theories that suggest a much more dynamic and catastrophic past for our planet. Cataclysmic theories involving cometary impacts, rapid pole shifts, or even crustal displacement, where the Earth's entire outer layer rapidly shifts over its liquid mantle, are proposed as potential triggers for a sudden, planet-altering deluge. What if the pre-flood world was radically different geographically, with land masses and sea levels profoundly unlike today's configuration? Some researchers propose that immense tidal forces from a close celestial body, or the sudden release of vast amounts of subterranean water, could have initiated a global flood that scoured continents and reshaped coastlines in a matter of days or weeks, rather than millennia. Such an event would leave distinct geological markers, but perhaps markers that are currently misinterpreted or simply too vast to fit within our conventional models of Earth's history. If the Earth itself bears scars that defy slow, natural processes, what kind of immense force could have reshaped it so dramatically? And could this force be the very drowned age, remembered in myth? An event so profound that it utterly reset the clock of both geological and human history. And if such a profound event did occur, a global catastrophe that wiped the slate clean, what knowledge of that drowned age, what records of its advanced sciences might still reside within the deepest, most carefully guarded archives of the world? If the echoes of a drowned age truly persist in global myths, if the possibility of advanced knowledge before a great flood is more than just a whispered theory, then a crucial question arises. What happened to the actual records? Why isn't this ancient history readily available to us today? Perhaps the answer lies not just in the passage of time, but in the deliberate burning of knowledge, a selective preservation that shaped the narrative we now accept as history. Consider the colossal and heartbreaking losses humanity has endured. In the ancient world, repositories of knowledge were vast, yet fragile. Take the Library of Alexandria, a beacon of learning, a collection said to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Here, the accumulated wisdom of diverse cultures, from Egypt to Persia, from Greece to distant lands, converged. For centuries, it served as the intellectual heart of the world, a testament to humanity's endless quest for understanding. The mainstream view explains its decline as a series of unfortunate events: a partial burning during Caesar's siege, subsequent neglect, religious strife, and finally, a more complete destruction under Roman or Christian decrees. It's often presented as a slow, tragic decay, an inevitable casualty of war and changing times, a mere accident of history that such a treasure was lost. But there's a deeper current beneath this accepted narrative. The question lingers: was it truly just a series of accidents, or was there an element of deliberate purging? When we consider the sheer scale of information housed within Alexandria, encompassing philosophies, sciences, and histories that might have challenged nascent religious or political doctrines, the simple explanation of accidental loss feels incomplete. Some theories suggest that as new powers rose, with new belief systems and a desire to consolidate their own versions of history, libraries like Alexandria became targets. Texts that contradicted emerging orthodoxies, or detailed a worldview too divergent from the preferred narrative, might have been systematically removed, deemed dangerous, or simply eradicated. Could it be that among the millions of words lost, there were direct accounts of advanced antediluvian civilizations, perhaps too challenging to be allowed to survive? If this is true, then how much irreplaceable knowledge, specifically about earlier ages, vanished forever due to these calculated acts, and how much was deliberately targeted for reasons beyond simple preservation or destruction? This pattern of knowledge destruction extends far beyond Alexandria. The Roman Empire, in its expansion and consolidation, engaged in what some historians describe as widespread purges of local histories and records in conquered territories. As new rulers asserted their authority, old narratives were often rewritten, suppressed, or simply erased. Think of the rich oral and written traditions of Celtic peoples, largely lost under Roman influence, or the systematic suppression of various Gnostic texts and other early Christian writings deemed heretical by the nascent church. Across vast empires, the victors not only wrote the history but often determined what remained of the past. Book burnings, though often symbolic, represented a very real obliteration of dissenting or inconvenient ideas. The very act of consigning knowledge to flames sends a clear, terrifying message. This information is not only wrong, it must cease to exist. The mainstream interpretation frames these events as the natural progression of empires and religions seeking dominance. It was a chaotic era, and much was inevitably lost due to war, censorship, or changing cultural values. This loss, while regrettable, is seen as an organic process of cultural evolution and conflict. But consider the critical pivot point. If humanity once possessed knowledge of a world far older and more complex than officially acknowledged, a world that experienced a cataclysm that reshaped everything, then the stakes of such destructions were immeasurably higher. These weren't merely philosophical disagreements or differing historical accounts. They were potential challenges to the very foundation of emerging religious and secular authority. Alternative theories suggest that some of these purges were not merely about cultural dominance, but about suppressing specific knowledge that could empower dissenting groups or reveal truths that fundamentally contradicted the prevailing order. Could the Romans, with their vast administrative reach, have systematically sought out and eliminated certain accounts that spoke of a vastly different human past, of civilizations that predated their own foundational myths? The unanswered question then becomes, how much of our current understanding of history is a direct result of these deliberate editorial decisions made millennia ago, shaping not only what we know, but what we can know about a world before the flood? This brings us to a seemingly paradoxical role, that of the early church. On one hand, the church is widely credited with preserving an immense wealth of classical knowledge. Monasteries across Europe meticulously copied and safeguarded texts that would otherwise have been lost to the ravages of time and ignorance. Without these dedicated scribes, much of ancient Greek and Roman literature, philosophy, and science would be utterly unknown to us today. This mainstream view emphasizes the church as a bulwark against intellectual darkness, a beacon that kept the flame of learning alive through the so-called Dark Ages. But there's a vital but. The church was also a gatekeeper, and often an active participant in the destruction of what it considered pagan, heretical, or blasphemous works. Early Christian leaders championed the burning of texts that challenged their burgeoning doctrine. The Edict of Theodosius in 380 AD declared Nicene Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire, paving the way for the suppression of paganism and the destruction of its temples and literature. This wasn't merely a passive preservation. It was an active filtering process, deciding what was worthy of survival and what was to be condemned. The line between preservation and deliberate censorship becomes incredibly thin here. Alternative theories suggest that this selection process wasn't always straightforward. What if certain dangerous texts, particularly those detailing a pre-flood world, were too significant, too detailed, or contained information deemed too potent to simply burn? What if their content, while contradicting dogma, held vital clues about human origins or ancient sciences that some within the church felt compelled to safeguard, rather than annihilate completely? It's hypothesized that early church scholars, encountering texts from various cultures detailing a global catastrophe in prior advanced ages, might have recognized their profound, even unsettling, implications. While publicly denounced, these texts could have been quietly relocated, secured away from widespread access, perhaps even deemed too much for the common person, or conflicting too profoundly with the newly established narrative of creation. This would mean they weren't destroyed, but rather hidden in plain sight, preserved, but profoundly inaccessible. Could this dual role therefore be more complex than simple preservation or destruction? Was it an act of saving valuable, albeit inconvenient, information from total oblivion, or a systematic act of selective gatekeeping, hiding away certain truths to protect a nascent spiritual and political structure? This leads us to a fascinating hypothesis: the systematic transfer of sensitive pre-Christian accounts to secure locations, ultimately culminating in the deep vaults of institutions like the Vatican. Imagine a scenario, perhaps before the final demise of libraries like Alexandria, or during the height of Roman purges, where certain enlightened individuals or powerful secret societies, possibly even elements within the early church itself, understood the immense value and potential danger of specific ancient knowledge. The mainstream explanation for how important documents survived is largely one of chance and diligent copying. Monks copied what they could, and what survived in various libraries and private collections eventually found its way into new repositories. It's a tale of scattered survival, not organized relocation of specific, controversial knowledge. Important scrolls were simply dispersed, and some were lucky enough to be recopied. But this explanation has a critical but. If certain knowledge was truly volatile, say, detailed maps of submerged continents, accounts of advanced antediluvian technologies, or precise astronomical charts from impossible periods, would simple dispersal have been enough to manage its impact? Would it not have warranted a more systematic, highly secretive effort to consolidate and secure this information in a centralized, impenetrable location? Alternative theories propose that a conscious, organized effort was made to gather and transfer specific, sensitive, pre-Christian and pre-Roman accounts, perhaps from dying pagan temples, from sacked libraries, or from the private collections of powerful Roman families who harbored older traditions. This knowledge was deemed too important to be lost, yet too dangerous to be publicly known. These documents, collected from diverse sources across the ancient world, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, the Levant, could have found new homes in the burgeoning libraries of Rome, or within the earliest, most secure ecclesiastical centers. These repositories, over centuries, might have coalesced into the vast, highly protected archives we now associate with the Vatican. This suggests not just passive preservation, but a deliberate, strategic relocation, and sequestration of knowledge considered too profound or disruptive for the wider world. It paints a picture of a sacred trust, or perhaps a burden of knowledge, placed upon a select few. So, could the Vatican archives, with its unparalleled secrecy and vast holdings, be more than just a repository of medieval and Renaissance history? Could it, in fact, be a carefully constructed safe house for pre-flood secrets, saved from the flames of a forgotten past, systematically collected and concealed for millennia, waiting for a time when humanity might finally be ready to confront its true, astonishing timeline? While countless stories of ancient wisdom turn to ash in forgotten fires, there is another, more unsettling possibility. A theory that some of the most profound and challenging knowledge was not merely lost to time, but carefully salvaged, guarded and kept beyond the reach of those who might misunderstand or even misuse it. In the shadowed heart of the Vatican, some believe, reside not just sacred texts, but fragments of a lost epoch, documents that do not speak of spiritual parables, but instead offer a physical, tangible record of a world utterly unlike our own. Records that literally redraw the very maps of our known history. Imagine ancient maps, etched onto materials defying conventional dating, meticulously detailing continents and vast landmasses that simply do not exist on any modern atlas. We are told the shape of our world is fixed, discovered gradually through centuries of painstaking exploration and daring voyages. But what if there are maps, preserved in deepest secrecy, that tell a vastly different, almost alien story? Whispers from within the Vatican's labyrinthine corridors speak of cartographic marvels, parchments and scrolls depicting immense territories now utterly swallowed by the ocean, their memory only lingering in the faintest echoes of myth and legend. Here in these rumored documents, places like Atlantis, long dismissed as Plato's philosophical allegory, or Lemuria, a vast, lost Pacific continent, are not just fables. They emerge as undeniable geographical realities, charted with a startling, almost impossible precision. Not only general coastlines, but intricate river systems, towering mountain ranges, and even detailed ecological zones of lands now millennia deep beneath the waves. The scale of these features, the clarity of their depiction, is said to be astonishing, defying the crude mapping tools we associate with antiquity. Beyond simple landmasses, some theories suggest these archives hold even more profound secrets. Blueprints for entire cities, architectural plans for colossal structures, designed with an understanding of geometry, materials science, and engineering that far predates anything we attribute to known ancient civilizations. Designs that seem to defy the very constraints of the human imagination, hinting at construction methods we cannot replicate, at technologies we are only now beginning to grasp, or perhaps have long forgotten. The precision implied in these plans, the sheer audacity of their scale, would suggest a forgotten era of unparalleled technological mastery. The prevailing view in mainstream archaeology and history categorizes these accounts of lost continents and impossible maps as pure, unadulterated fiction. Atlantis, for instance, is routinely interpreted as either a cautionary tale, a clever literary device employed by Plato to illustrate philosophical concepts, or perhaps a highly localized memory of a relatively minor catastrophe, such as a localized volcanic eruption, an earthquake, or a regional flood, but certainly not a global supercontinent that vanished overnight. Any apparent cartographic anomalies found in ancient or medieval historical records are often swiftly attributed to the rudimentary nature of ancient surveying techniques, the imaginative embellishments of early mapmakers who filled blank spaces with monsters and myths, or a fundamental misunderstanding of fragmented explorers' reports that were then misinterpreted by later scribes. The very idea of advanced architectural plans existing from deep antiquity, plans that imply technologies beyond simple levers, chisels, and brute force, is dismissed as anachronistic, products of wishful thinking, modern conspiracy theories, or genuine forgeries created at later dates. Scholars argue that such sophistication in cartography and engineering would have required a robust societal infrastructure, a rigorous scientific method, and a highly advanced global communication network that simply did not exist in the periods before known civilizations, such as Sumer or Egypt, even began to arise. To believe otherwise, they contend, would require overturning centuries of established archaeological and historical evidence with only anecdotal and mythical support, thereby undermining the scientific method itself. But the easy dismissals of these persistent legends and the apparent anomalies often falter when confronted with certain baffling historical data. Consider the Peary Rise map, discovered in 1929, an Ottoman map that appears to depict the coastline of Antarctica without ice asterisk. Centuries before its official discovery in the 19th century, and well before any known civilization, possessed the means to chart it with such accuracy. How could such a map exist, detailing landmasses under ice that were not seen until modern times? Or reflect upon the incredible consistency of global flood myths, spanning every single continent, every culture, describing not just localized inundations, but world-altering deluges that submerged vast territories and annihilated entire populations. What if these ancient mapmakers weren't merely guessing, or working from limited, flawed data passed down through generations of oral tradition? What if they were meticulously drawing from an older, far more complete global knowledge base, a pre-cataclysmic understanding of Earth's true geography, gleaned from a time when these lands were above water? The sheer audacity of these rumored Vatican maps, if they exist, is not just that they show lost lands. It is that they do so with a level of detail and accuracy that would necessitate advanced techniques, perhaps even aerial reconnaissance, or some form of global satellite imagery, utterly inexplicable for the proposed ancient eras. This challenges the entire linear progression of human discovery and technological advancement, hinting at a forgotten epoch of sophisticated global exploration and comprehensive geographical knowledge that was tragically wiped from our collective memory. The very existence of such maps would force us to confront a civilization vastly more capable than we ever dared to imagine. Some researchers, venturing boldly beyond conventional explanations, believe these rumored maps and architectural plans are not mere fictions, but direct and tangible legacies of a truly global, highly advanced seafaring civilization that existed before the cataclysmic events that ultimately reshaped our planet. A civilization with the technological prowess and the deep geographical understanding required to map the entire Earth, including its shorelines before the great floods irrevocably altered them. They suggest these ancient navigators possessed sophisticated instruments, perhaps even forms of if such maps, detailing lands now hidden beneath the waves, and such architectural marvels, speaking of forgotten sciences and impossible feats of engineering, truly exist within the Vatican's deepest, most secret vaults, how profoundly would that single revelation reshape our understanding of not just geography, but the entire timeline of human civilization? What untold catastrophes would these documents silently testify to? And what kind of intelligent life, with such extraordinary knowledge and capability, walked this earth before the waters rose and swept so much into the oblivion of myth and legend? The implications are staggering, forcing us to question everything we thought we knew about our planet's past, and indeed, our own origins. The idea of a pre-flood world mapped by an advanced civilization is already a profound challenge to our accepted history. But what if the anomalies within these hidden archives extend beyond just geography and architecture? What if they speak of the very inhabitants of that lost world, beings whose existence blurs the lines between myth and reality, between the human and the utterly alien? Deep within the Vatican's rumored black archives, some believe, lie accounts that go far beyond the fleeting mentions of giants or Nephilim found in canonical religious texts. Imagine documents, ancient and fragile, that offer not just brief biblical references, but extensive, detailed descriptions of these beings. Whispers describe texts that chart their physical characteristics, their societal structures, their astounding longevity, and their immense impact on a pre-flood world. These are not merely allegorical figures, convenient symbols for evil or power, but beings described with an almost biological precision. Their immense stature, often reaching heights of 10 to 15 feet or more, their incredible strength, and perhaps even their intellectual capabilities or unusual, non-human origins. Some accounts speak of antediluvian kings, figures of immense size and power, whose reign spanned centuries, shaping the destiny of early humanity in ways we can barely comprehend, leaving behind monumental structures and artifacts that defy our understanding. The very existence of such detailed, extra-biblical narratives would transform these mythical figures into historical entities, forcing a radical reevaluation of humanity's true genetic and historical lineage, potentially rewriting our understanding of what it truly means to be human. Mainstream theological and historical scholarship tends to interpret biblical accounts of giants, such as the Nephilim mentioned in Genesis 6 or the giant Goliath, as either metaphorical descriptions of powerful ancient tribes, exaggerated representations of unusually tall individuals, or perhaps an early Jewish midrash, an interpretive story or commentary. The term Nephilim, for instance, is often translated as fallen ones, referring to angelic beings who mingled with human women, leading to offspring that were human-like but distinct. However, this is largely considered to be an allegorical explanation for evil and corruption, not a literal race of physically massive beings. Historians typically dismiss claims of widespread ancient giants as products of folklore, cultural misunderstandings, or the misinterpretation of archaeological findings, such as unusually large human bones which are often later identified as animal remains or simply very robust human skeletons, albeit within normal human variation. The idea of a widespread, distinct race of giant hominids coexisting with or predating modern humans is generally seen as incompatible with modern anthropological and genetic understanding, which supports a relatively consistent human morphology over the past hundreds of thousands of years. But the dismissal of giants as mere folklore becomes increasingly difficult when confronted with the startling consistency of giant narratives across virtually every ancient culture on Earth. From the Greek Titans, the Norse Jotun, the Sumerian Anunnaki, to the Native American legends of red-haired giants found in burial mounds across North America, the description of immense, often powerful or monstrous beings, is a pervasive thread woven into the fabric of human oral tradition. What if these disparate myths are not isolated fictions, born independently from local superstitions, but fragmented memories of a shared, pre-flood reality? The existence of detailed, non-canonical texts within the Vatican, if proven true, would provide a powerful, unifying narrative to these global legends. Such documents could contain eyewitness accounts, perhaps even genealogical records of these beings, or scientific observations concerning their physiology, their unique attributes, and their interactions with early human populations. These texts, if real, would transcend mere allegories. They could describe beings whose undeniable presence dramatically shaped the ancient world, beings who were not simply metaphors, but flesh and blood, or something akin to it, and whose detailed history has been deliberately kept from public knowledge, perhaps because it challenges too many fundamental tenets of belief. Alternative theories surrounding these rumored Vatican texts diverge wildly, each seeking to explain the enigma of the giants. Some researchers believe these documents detail the existence of a distinct, pre-Adamic hominid species, far larger and perhaps more powerful than modern humans, coexisting with early humanity before the global cataclysm. Could these be remnants of an evolutionary branch now entirely lost, wiped clean from the fossil record by the Great Flood? Others lean towards a more fringe interpretation, suggesting the Nephilim were indeed hybrid beings, the direct result of genetic manipulation or interbreeding between early humans and an advanced, possibly extraterrestrial, progenitor race. These texts, they postulate, might contain detailed genetic schematics or biological observations that would rewrite our understanding of human origins, perhaps even revealing connections to celestial visitors. The most audacious theories even posit that these archives hold not just descriptions, but perhaps even biological samples or artifacts associated with these beings, preserved for centuries in cryogenic stasis or under conditions that defy modern science, waiting to be rediscovered. Could these giants have possessed advanced knowledge or technologies, passed down from an even earlier, hyper-advanced civilization, making them not just physically imposing, but intellectually formidable architects of a lost golden age? The possibility that the Vatican holds the true history of these fallen ones, or those who came down, transforms them from mythical figures into profound historical actors, whose influence on humanity and the pre-flood world is far greater than we could ever imagine. If the Vatican's deepest secrets truly contain extended histories of these giant beings, detailing their lives, their lineage, and their eventual disappearance, what implications would that have for our understanding of human evolution, our religious texts, and the very nature of creation itself? What truths about our own genetic past and the mysterious origins of intelligence on Earth might be locked away alongside these forbidden tomes, forcing us to question every assumption about who we are and where we come from, and how humanity came to be the dominant species on this planet? The very fabric of the pre-flood world begins to fray at the edges of our understanding, from lost continents to forgotten races. But what if the archive's secrets stretch beyond our planet entirely, offering a view not just of Earth's lost geography, but of the cosmos itself, as seen through eyes that should not have possessed such clarity? Within the whispered contents of the Vatican's black archives, some theorists describe documents that defy every conventional understanding of ancient astronomy. Imagine astronomical charts, meticulously drawn on materials that resist carbon dating, displaying star positions, planetary orbits, and celestial events that should have been utterly invisible to the naked eye of ancient observers. These are not crude star maps. They are said to be intricate diagrams showing stellar movements and cosmic phenomena that occurred thousands, even tens of thousands of years before any known civilization developed the means to observe them. They might chart precession cycles with a precision that hints at millennia of continuous observation, revealing the slow wobble of Earth's axis with an accuracy that would require an unbroken chain of advanced astronomers. Or they could even depict the orbits of planets far beyond Saturn, objects like Uranus and Neptune, only discovered in recent centuries with powerful telescopes, yet charted here with surprising detail. These alleged charts could also contain records of long-period comets, supernovas, or even galactic structures that would require advanced optical instruments and an understanding of cosmic mechanics utterly anachronistic for the periods they supposedly originate from. Such documents would suggest a pre-flood civilization with an astronomical sophistication equivalent to, or even surpassing, that of our modern era, an understanding of the universe that was somehow lost to the sands of time. Mainstream historical astronomy acknowledges the remarkable achievements of various ancient cultures, from the Sumerians who tracked planetary movements, to the Maya who developed incredibly precise calendars. However, it generally maintains that these observations were made with the naked eye, perhaps aided by simple sighting instruments like gnomons or astrolabes, and their understanding of celestial mechanics was largely empirical, based on repetitive observation, not on advanced physics or optics. Any alleged charts displaying impossible knowledge, such as telescopic planets or deep space phenomena, are typically dismissed as fabrications, misinterpretations of symbolic art, or later forgeries designed to create a sense of mystery where none truly exists. Scholars argue that the development of precise astronomical instruments, sophisticated mathematics for orbital calculations, and the understanding of deep space phenomena are a linear progression tied directly to the scientific revolution and the invention of advanced optics. The notion of ancient peoples possessing knowledge of telescopic planets or complex stellar dynamics thousands of years ago is therefore considered scientifically impossible. lacking any plausible mechanism for such observation or systematic data collection that could survive a global cataclysm. But the dismissal becomes far more challenging when confronted with certain inexplicable artifacts and ancient texts already known outside the Vatican's secretive walls. Consider the Antikythera mechanism, a complex ancient Greek analog computer capable of predicting astronomical positions with astounding accuracy, demonstrating a level of mechanical and mathematical sophistication previously thought impossible for its time. Or the Dogon tribe of Mali, whose oral traditions describe astonishing details of the Sirius star system, including the invisible Sirius B white dwarf, long before modern astronomy confirmed its existence. What if these are not isolated anomalies, ingenious but ultimately limited, but fragments of a much larger, pre-flood astronomical knowledge base? If the Vatican archives truly house charts depicting stellar events from epochs far beyond our known history, or mapping unseen celestial bodies with a precision that hints at advanced technology, it would obliterate the accepted timeline of scientific discovery. It would imply a systematic, long-term observational project by a civilization possessing an understanding of the cosmos that was utterly lost, only to be painstakingly rediscovered over millennia by successive civilizations. The very possibility of such charts suggests a catastrophic break in scientific transmission, a great filter that erased advanced cosmic wisdom from human memory, plunging humanity into a long, dark age of ignorance regarding its place in the universe. The alternative theories regarding these alleged Vatican astronomical charts are profoundly unsettling. Some researchers propose that these documents are direct legacies of a pre-flood global civilization that possessed highly advanced observatories, perhaps employing optical instruments or even forms of celestial mechanics that we are only now beginning to comprehend. Could they have used crystal lenses or a mastery of light properties that allowed them to peer deep into space and time, far beyond the capabilities of their perceived era? Others hypothesize that the knowledge contained within these charts was not solely earthbound in its origin. Could it have been transmitted or downloaded from an external, non-human intelligence? This could explain the charting of celestial phenomena seemingly impossible for human observation at the time, or the knowledge of distant cosmic events that human eyes could not possibly have seen. The most radical theories suggest these charts are not merely observational records, but predictive models, derived from an understanding of universal laws that allowed this lost civilization to forecast celestial events across vast stretches of time, including planetary alignments or catastrophic cosmic occurrences that influenced Earth. Perhaps these documents were intended as a warning, a star map of both the past and the future, detailing cyclical cataclysms that are etched into the very fabric of the cosmos. The idea that such profound cosmic knowledge, defying our current historical framework, is held in secret would forever alter our perception of humanity's place in the universe, revealing a heritage far grander and more complex than we currently conceive. If the Vatican's deepest vaults conceal such ancient astronomical charts, detailing celestial events and cosmic understanding far beyond anything we credit to the ancient world, what profound implications does this hold for our linear view of scientific progress? Could these documents contain not just observations, but warnings of future cosmic events, or even records of an ancient cosmic influence on our planet? What forgotten wisdom about the universe and our small place within it might be quietly resting, waiting to rewrite the entire history of science and human awareness, and perhaps even prepare us for what is to come? From maps of vanished lands to records of forgotten races, and cosmic charts of impossible eras, the tapestry of what we think we know about the pre-flood world begins to unravel. But what of the mechanism of this secrecy itself? The very existence of such profound anomalies points to a deeper, more deliberate act of preservation and concealment. What if, beyond the officially accessible archives, there lies an even more profound layer of secrecy? A black archive of knowledge deemed too volatile, too dangerous to ever see the light of day. Beyond the miles of shelves, the carefully cataloged manuscripts, and the publicly acknowledged restricted sections of the Vatican Apostolic Archives, there exists a persistent and unsettling theory. Whispers speak of an even deeper, utterly hidden layer, the Black Archives. These are not simply highly classified sections, access to which is limited, but rumored vaults within vaults, secret rooms within secret rooms, holding documents and perhaps even artifacts that defy every conventional understanding of history, science, and even reality itself. This shadowy collection is said to contain not merely sensitive political or religious texts, but actual records, tomes, and objects that possess anomalous properties or challenge established timelines to such an extreme degree that their public disclosure could shatter global belief systems and collapse existing power structures. Documents defying conventional dating, written on unknown materials like metal leaves or crystalline tablets, in forgotten scripts or symbols that resist deciphering, or detailing technologies and events that simply should not exist in the historical periods they ostensibly originate from. It is here, in this mythical Black Archive, a place whispered about but never confirmed, that the most profound and unsettling secrets of the pre-flood world are said to be guarded with an intensity beyond comprehension. Mainstream perspectives and official Vatican statements strongly deny the existence of any such Black Archives. They assert that, while the Vatican Apostolic Archives are indeed vast and contain sensitive information, much like any state archive, governmental or institutional, they operate under established protocols for access, classification, and preservation. Any perceived mystery or secrecy, they argue, stems from the sheer volume of documents, the rigorous security measures necessary for priceless historical artifacts, and the extensive academic process required for researchers to gain access. The idea of hidden vaults containing world-shattering information is typically dismissed as a baseless conspiracy theory, fueled by sensationalism, misinformation, and a fundamental misunderstanding of how such venerable institutions function. Vatican spokespeople often emphasize the Church's historic role as a preserver of knowledge, a beacon of civilization during dark ages, not a hoarder of dangerous truths. They state that all documents, while protected for their integrity and historical value, are eventually cataloged and, where appropriate, made accessible to qualified scholars, albeit with the necessary restrictions for conservation, privacy, and the sheer logistics of handling ancient texts. But the persistent rumors, often fueled by accounts from former Vatican insiders, estranged scholars, or even those who claim to have glimpsed fragments of such knowledge before being silenced or discredited, cannot be entirely dismissed. The very scale of the Vatican's secrecy, the multiple layers of physical and bureaucratic security, and the historical instances of selective information control, as we've explored in previous acts, with the burning of libraries and the suppression of certain texts, lend an unsettling credibility to the Black Archive theory. Why would an institution dedicated to preserving and transmitting religious doctrine and historical records go to such extraordinary lengths to guard certain non-canonical documents, unless their contents posed an existential threat to established narratives, both sacred and secular? The inconsistencies in cataloging, the abrupt cessation of access to certain collections for seemingly arbitrary reasons, or the sheer implausibility of some official explanations only serve to deepen the mystery. What if the publicly accessible archives, vast and awe-inspiring as they are merely a meticulously curated facade, a deliberate diversion from the truly profound, world-altering truths hidden within an even deeper, unacknowledged repository? The theories surrounding these clandestine, Black Archives are as varied as they are unsettling. Some researchers believe these deepest vaults hold physical remnants or detailed records of pre-flood technologies, perhaps even working prototypes or schematics that demonstrate an advanced mastery of energy, propulsion, or material science that could destabilize modern society and render current industries obsolete. Could they contain evidence of free energy devices, or methods of anti-gravity that powered the construction of megalithic sites? Others speculate that the Black Archives contain not just documents, but biological samples or even preserved remains of non-human intelligences, or the giants we discussed earlier, posing an undeniable challenge to theological and evolutionary dogma, and perhaps proving their existence beyond doubt. The most chilling theories suggest these deepest secrets are not merely historical records, but prophecies or direct communications from non-human entities, detailing a cyclical history of humanity, recurring cataclysms, and an impending future known only to a select few, revealing a cosmic timeline far grander than our own. The materials of these rumored documents are themselves subjects of speculation. Unperishable alloys, bioluminescent parchments, or texts written in a language that adapts and changes, defying static preservation. It is a repository of absolute truth, or perhaps absolute danger, hidden in plain sight, ensuring that humanity only receives the version of history deemed suitable for its current stage of development, protecting it from truths it might not be ready to comprehend. If the Black Archives of the Vatican truly exist, holding documents and relics that defy conventional dating, reveal impossible technologies, or chronicle a history utterly different from the one we have been taught, what does that mean for our quest for truth? What secrets, so profound and so dangerous, are deemed too much for humanity to bear, prompting such extraordinary measures of concealment? And what version of our past, of our origins, and of our future is the Vatican guarding so fiercely within these deepest, most secret vaults, shaping our reality from the shadows? As we delve deeper into the shadowed realms rumored within the Vatican archives, the true weight of their potential contents begins to press upon our conventional understanding of history. We've spoken of maps that defy cartography, architectural plans that whisper of impossible builders, and astronomical charts from ages that should not have seen such precision. If these accounts, these fragments of a drowned world, truly exist within those hallowed walls, then their implications are nothing short of revolutionary. They force us to confront a history far more intricate, far more cyclical, than the simple, linear progression we've been taught. Our established narrative of human development is a familiar, comforting story, a steady climb from primitive beginnings. We chart a course from the Stone Age, through the Agricultural Revolution, the Bronze and Iron Ages, up to the Industrial and Information eras. It's a clear, unbroken line, each epoch building painstakingly upon the last, leading us to our current peak of technological and societal achievement. This is the timeline we find in our textbooks, the one that shapes our perception of progress and our place in the universe. It suggests a continuous, upward trajectory, an ever-increasing sophistication with no true predecessors to rival our present ingenuity. But what if this widely accepted, linear path of human history is incomplete? What if it's merely a segment of a much larger, more complex tapestry? The very existence of pre-flood records within the Vatican archives, particularly those hinting at advanced knowledge like precise maps of submerged lands or intricate astronomical observations from impossibly early periods, presents an anomaly that refuses to fit neatly into this straight line. If humanity possessed such capabilities before a global catastrophe, then our understanding of history as a perpetual ascent from simpler times is fundamentally challenged. Some researchers believe that humanity's journey is not a straight line, but a series of grand cycles. Could it be that civilizations rise to incredible heights, only to be swept away by cataclysms, their knowledge lost, their achievements buried, forcing future generations to start anew from a state of relative simplicity? Theories range from cosmic cycles, often referred to as great years in ancient texts, where humanity experiences periods of enlightenment followed by periods of forgetting, to geological cycles of catastrophic floods and ice ages that periodically wipe the slate clean. Perhaps the impossible artifacts found globally, those enigmatic structures and technologies that defy conventional dating and construction methods, are not anomalies in a linear progression, but rather echoes, faint memories of previous peaks in these grand cycles. They might be the only surviving fragments of cultures that reached levels of advancement we are only now beginning to fathom, only to be erased from the collective memory. If history isn't a relentless climb, but rather a repeating pattern of rise and fall, of advanced ages giving way to dark ages, where do we truly stand in humanity's grand and enigmatic story? The implications extend even further when we consider the whispers of suppressed ancient technologies. We've touched upon the rumored architectural plans within the Vatican archives, plans so sophisticated they suggest an understanding of engineering far beyond what we attribute to the post-flood world. Our mainstream historical view holds that our current technological advancements are unprecedented, a unique pinnacle of human ingenuity. We believe that ancient peoples were limited by the primitive tools and materials available to them, their accomplishments impressive for their time, but never comparable to our own. But the rumored contents of the Vatican archives paint a different, far more intriguing picture. If these sacred vaults indeed contain detailed blueprints or descriptions of devices from a pre-flood civilization, technologies that enabled feats like the precise celestial navigation we discussed earlier, or the movement of colossal stones with an ease that baffles modern engineers, then our narrative of innovation is profoundly incomplete. Such knowledge, if real, would imply a sophisticated grasp of physics, acoustics, or even forms of energy that remain unknown or unrecognized by mainstream science today. Some theorize about methods of acoustic levitation, where specific sound frequencies could have been used to effortlessly lift and position massive objects. Others ponder the harnessing of natural earth energies, perhaps geomagnetic forces or telluric currents, to power ancient machines or illuminate cities now lost beneath the waves. What if these forgotten sciences were not merely rudimentary, but represented an entirely different paradigm of technological understanding, one that worked in harmony with natural laws rather than against them? It's conceivable that these technologies were not simply lost due to the passage of time, but perhaps became unusable or even dangerous after a global cataclysm dramatically altered the planet's environment and energy fields. The knowledge may have been preserved, but its practical application rendered impossible. What other marvels, what other profound scientific understandings lie buried not just beneath layers of earth, but within locked vaults, waiting to redefine human capability and our entire perception of the past? Finally, if the Vatican archives truly hold pre-flood data, its profoundest impact might be on our understanding of human origins themselves. We have discussed the accounts of giants, or Nephilim, hinted at in various ancient texts, and rumored to be elaborated upon within the Vatican's most secret collections, far beyond a simple biblical interpretation. Our current mainstream narrative of human evolution maps a relatively clear journey, from primitive hominids emerging in Africa to the rise of distinct, geographically localized civilizations, which then slowly spread and interacted. It's a story of independent development, with limited global interaction in the deep past. But if the archives contain records that contradict these established timelines, or offer a more complex lineage for humanity, perhaps even suggesting multiple, distinct ancestries, or sophisticated, interconnected civilizations existing before the deluge, then the story of where we came from becomes far more intricate and unsettling. The idea that humanity's family tree is not a single, branching entity, but perhaps a multi-rooted one, or that different forms of intelligent life coexisted, challenges core tenets of anthropology and archaeology. Some researchers posit the idea of multiple genetic seedings, or even interbreeding with unknown groups in the deep past, leading to a much richer and more diverse origin story than currently accepted. What if the giants were not simply larger humans, but remnants of a distinct lineage, perhaps possessing advanced knowledge or unique abilities? This opens the door to truly alternative theories of human origin, suggesting a mosaic of influences rather than a singular evolutionary path. Furthermore, the notion of pre-flood global networks becomes unavoidable if advanced civilizations existed. Could these ancient societies, perhaps using forms of navigation or even atmospheric travel that defy our current understanding, have shared knowledge, technology, and cultural patterns across what we now consider isolated continents? If maps of submerged lands and advanced astronomical charts were exchanged, it implies a level of global cohesion and communication utterly absent from our mainstream historical models of the antediluvian world. If the family tree of humanity is far more complex than we imagine, and its roots stretch back into a shadowed, interconnected world, as we delve deeper into the shadowed history, questioning humanity's true timeline, we inevitably arrive at the most profound question: why would such astonishing knowledge remain locked away? The Vatican, an institution shrouded in ancient mystery and unparalleled influence, holds a unique position, not merely as a curator of the past, but potentially as its silent architect. The motivations for such profound secrecy are themselves a tapestry of complex theories, weaving together power, faith, and the very perception of humanity's readiness for uncomfortable truths. One prevailing theory suggests the deepest secrets of the archives are held to protect theological dogma and the spiritual authority of the Church itself. Mainstream understanding places the Church as a guardian of faith, interpreting sacred texts and guiding millions through a millennia-old narrative. Its role is to provide spiritual certainty, anchoring believers in a shared history and understanding of divine purpose. But what if the very documents within its most sacred vaults tell a different story? What if the pre-flood records, perhaps detailing aspects of human origins or advanced civilizations, diverge so dramatically from established doctrine that their revelation would fracture the very bedrock of faith for countless souls? Some researchers believe these hidden texts could describe alternative creation narratives, or perhaps even accounts of a pre-Adamic humanity, fundamentally reshaping the interpretation of Scripture. They suggest the Church, acting as a steward of spiritual stability, might choose to protect its flock from truths that could lead to widespread existential doubt, or even outright rejection of its teachings. The argument here is not one of malice, but of perceived necessity, a strategic silence to preserve an orthodoxy that has provided comfort and guidance for centuries. Could the Vatican truly believe that certain knowledge, no matter how historically accurate, would do more harm than good to the collective spiritual consciousness of the world? This leads us to ponder: if the price of absolute historical truth is the erosion of faith for millions, would revealing it truly be a service or a disservice to humanity? Another compelling theory speaks to a far grander, and perhaps more benevolent, motivation for secrecy: the prevention of societal chaos and the maintenance of global order. The common understanding of societal progress assumes a gradual, linear advancement of knowledge, with institutions adapting to new discoveries. But what if the archives contain records of human history that challenge this slow progression? What if they reveal cycles of advanced civilization, followed by catastrophic collapse, not merely as cautionary tales, but as detailed historical accounts with profound implications for our present? The mainstream view holds that stability, built upon shared narratives and established structures, is paramount for a functioning society. But some speculate that the Vatican perceives an even greater threat from the unveiling of certain truths than from their concealment? Could the pre-flood records speak of technologies so potent they could reshape our world beyond recognition? Or of past cataclysms so devastating they could trigger widespread panic and despair? Theories suggest that documents detailing advanced ancient sciences, or even the precise mechanisms of a global flood, could, if misinterpreted or misused, lead to unprecedented social unrest, a breakdown of governance, or even a global existential crisis. In this view, the Church assumes a role far beyond spiritual guidance, acting as a global stabilizer, carefully managing the flow of historical data to ensure humanity progresses at a pace it deems safe and manageable. Perhaps they believe humanity, in its current state, is not yet prepared to wield such profound knowledge responsibly, fearing a return to the very hubris that some believe led to the pre-flood world's demise. The question lingers: is ignorance truly bliss, or is it merely a deferred reckoning with an uncomfortable past that will eventually surface? This brings us to the most intriguing and perhaps unsettling idea: the Vatican as a potential gatekeeper of knowledge deemed simply too dangerous for humanity. We generally assume that knowledge, by its very nature, is a tool for enlightenment and progress. Yet rumors persist of forbidden knowledge within the archives, not merely inconvenient truths, but actively perilous ones. The conventional wisdom states that the danger lies in the asterisk misinterpretation or misuse of knowledge, not the knowledge itself. But what if some knowledge truly is inherently dangerous, regardless of the intent of those who possess it? What if the pre-flood archives contain not just historical accounts, but blueprints for devastating ancient technologies, or profound insights into aspects of human nature so dark, so primal, that their rediscovery could trigger unprecedented conflict and self-destruction? Researchers speculate about documents detailing methods of biological manipulation far beyond our current understanding, or the exploitation of energy sources with catastrophic environmental consequences, all documented from a civilization that ultimately destroyed itself. Others whisper of ancient warnings about cosmic events, geological instabilities, or even the very nature of consciousness, which, if mishandled, could plunge the world into despair or uncontrollable chaos. In this scenario, the Vatican is portrayed as the ultimate custodian, shouldering the immense burden of preventing humanity from repeating mistakes so profound they nearly erased all life from the planet once before. It's a chilling thought that the preservation of secrets is not about control, but about protection, even from ourselves. Could it be that humanity, in its current state of development, is simply not ready for the full truth of its own past? Can we ever truly be ready for certain truths, or are some secrets better left buried, even from ourselves? Finally, the geopolitical implications of such profound knowledge cannot be overstated, impacting modern belief systems and the very fabric of global power. History, as it is taught and understood, forms the bedrock of national identity, international relations, and cultural narratives. Mainstream historical revision often occurs incrementally, through academic debate and new archaeological finds, with its impact largely confined to intellectual circles. But what if the historical truth contained within the Vatican archives isn't just academic, but has direct and profound geopolitical consequences, potentially reordering alliances, challenging national boundaries, or undermining the foundational narratives of modern nations? Some theories suggest that pre-flood maps, if they depict lost continents or submerged landmasses, could reignite ancient claims to territory, sparking international disputes and conflicts. Could ancient texts describe a global civilization or events that contradict the established histories of modern nations, forcing them to rewrite their very reasons for existence, perhaps even invalidating foundational myths? Researchers believe such revelations could dramatically shift the balance of global power, potentially elevating certain cultures or regions based on newly discovered ancient lineage, or conversely, undermining others. Moreover, the impact on other major religions, whether validating or invalidating parts of their sacred histories, could lead to widespread theological upheaval, challenging dogma across the globe and potentially triggering religious conflicts on an unprecedented scale. If the past holds the keys to a different future, who truly has the right to decide what we remember and what we forget? The Vatican, with its enduring diplomatic relations and global reach, understands the delicate balance of power and belief. Could its silence be a strategic necessity, a chosen burden to prevent a worldwide breakdown of the systems that define our modern world? The weight of this potential knowledge is immense, casting a long, complex shadow over the present, ensuring that the past remains a tightly guarded secret, for reasons that stretch far beyond simple preservation. The motivations behind such profound secrecy, we've explored, range from protecting sacred dogma to shielding humanity from truths potentially too unsettling. The Vatican, for millennia, has stood as a bastion, a presumed guardian of not only faith, but perhaps of history itself. But what if the very floodgates of that guarded knowledge were to open, not with a trickle, but a deluge of pre-flood truth? The weight of centuries of carefully protected secrets presses on the ancient walls of the Vatican Apostolic Archives. We are left to contemplate what would happen if those vaults, so long sealed by intent and time, were suddenly to reveal their full contents concerning a drowned world. Our current understanding of human civilization and its linear progression is meticulously constructed, built upon archaeological discoveries and historical records that tell a story of gradual ascent, from early communities to our complex modern era. Humanity, in this accepted narrative, has slowly but surely accumulated knowledge, each generation building upon the last, steadily progressing towards greater understanding. But the existence of detailed pre-flood accounts, of tangible evidence suggesting advanced civilizations flourishing before the Great Deluge, or even different forms of humanity preceding our own, would shatter that carefully constructed timeline. It would not merely add a chapter to our history. It would necessitate rewriting every book, every scientific theory, every religious text that underpins our world. Imagine the world grappling with records that detail a forgotten science, or maps depicting continents submerged beneath the waves for thousands of years. The implications are staggering, far beyond mere academic adjustments. Some researchers believe such a revelation would trigger an unprecedented global reevaluation of our origins, forcing every educational institution, every museum, every cultural narrative to fundamentally shift. Others speculate it would ignite a profound crisis of faith across all major religions, as long-held spiritual narratives are directly confronted with concrete, physical records that paint a different, perhaps more complex, picture of creation and early humanity. Could it paradoxically spark an explosion of scientific and technological innovation, as the rediscovery of long-lost antediluvian sciences or forgotten technologies offers solutions to our most pressing modern challenges? Or might it instead lead to a deep, existential despair, a collective realization that humanity has perhaps fallen from a greater, more sophisticated past, rather than consistently progressed? The public unveiling of such truths could either illuminate humanity's path forward with the wisdom of a forgotten age, or cast us into confusion, questioning everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our place in the cosmos. Would such a revelation ultimately be a monumental gift of unparalleled enlightenment, or a burden far too heavy for modern society to truly bear? The answer remains, for now, locked away. Regardless of whether the Vatican's archives ever fully open their deepest, most ancient sections, the persistent whisper of lost knowledge continues to echo through the corridors of human consciousness. We carry within our collective memory the shadow of a vast, forgotten golden age, hinted at in the foundational myths of cultures across the globe and in the impossible structures scattered across our planet. The mainstream view often holds that what significant knowledge was lost to time and catastrophe has been largely recovered, painstakingly pieced together by diligent archaeologists and historians, or that what remains undiscovered is merely fragmented, inconsequential data. They argue that our current understanding, though incomplete, is largely accurate, representing the pinnacle of what can be known from the surviving evidence. But the sheer volume of material erased by deliberate destruction, by the slow erosion of time, and by cataclysmic events, as we have explored, suggests an incompleteness far grander than we often acknowledge. The Vatican, by its very existence as a repository of suspected antediluvian records, stands as a stark reminder of this profound chasm in our historical understanding. It implies that humanity's past is not simply missing a few pages, but perhaps entire volumes, whole libraries of wisdom and experience. The scale of this potential void makes us question the very foundations of our current scientific and philosophical paradigms. Could it be that our modern scientific progress, the very pinnacle of our intellectual achievements, is merely a partial, fragmented rediscovery of what a pre-flood civilization already understood? Some ponder if advanced knowledge of energy generation, the intricacies of consciousness, or even sophisticated methods of construction and ancient astronomy were once commonplace, now relegated to the realm of speculative fiction or dismissed as impossible. What if the fundamental principles of mathematics, medicine, and engineering had reached astonishing heights, far beyond our current comprehension, only to be utterly wiped clean from the slate of history by a global catastrophe, leaving us to painstakingly start anew? Theories suggest that the secrets of atmospheric control, gravity manipulation, or even a profound understanding of the universe's energetic fabric could be among the forgotten sciences, knowledge that could fundamentally alter our present technological trajectory. Others believe that a deeper spiritual understanding, a connection to universal truths long since severed, was common in a pre-flood world, a knowledge perhaps too profound for the sensibilities of later, more fragmented ages. How much of our own past brilliance, our true heritage, are we genuinely blind to, trapped within the confines of our current historical narrative, locked away not just in physical vaults, but in the very fabric of forgotten time itself? The absence of this vast knowledge leaves a silent, yet profound, imprint on our modern world. It is a constant, nagging question that underscores the very nature of human progress. The Vatican, with its towering, inscrutable walls and its labyrinthine archives, stands as a potent, almost mystical symbol of humanity's deepest secrets. It is a focal point for the enduring quest for truth, a quiet, scholarly battleground where conventional history meets the tantalizing possibility of something far older, far grander, and profoundly more complex than currently accepted. Mainstream historians and religious scholars often view such ancient institutions primarily as custodians of religious doctrine, papal history, and the intricate narratives of medieval Europe. Their archives are typically understood to contain an immense, but largely familiar, collection of papal bulls, theological treatises, diplomatic correspondence, and administrative records pertaining to the Church's long history. But the persistent and pervasive rumors surrounding the Vatican's secret holdings, from ancient maps depicting submerged lands and detailed blueprints of impossible structures, to accounts of colossal beings and astronomical charts dated to periods predating known observational capabilities, transform these archives into something far more than mere historical repositories. They become suspected strongholds of a different kind of truth, one that transcends purely religious dogma and actively challenges the very foundations of our established historical framework, suggesting a secret stream of knowledge flowing beneath the surface of our accepted reality. This sustained speculation indicates a deep, collective intuition that there is more to our past than meets the eye. Some believe the Vatican has, over millennia, acted as a modern-day intellectual ark, a deliberate and meticulous collector, having absorbed fragmented knowledge from countless fallen empires, suppressed traditions, and perhaps even from the direct survivors of the Great Deluge itself. Could it be that the Church's immense spiritual authority and its enduring influence throughout history were built not solely on faith, but also on the careful, strategic management of profound, world-altering historical data? Theories extend further, suggesting that the Vatican's role has always been to guard a specific narrative, a carefully curated secret history, whose full revelation could unleash widespread societal chaos, destabilize global power structures, and fundamentally disrupt established belief systems. It is hypothesized that this guardianship is not merely about preserving ancient documents, but about managing the very perception of human history, shaping the collective consciousness for generations. What if the archives hold not just records of the past, but the keys to understanding profound existential questions that, if released, would fundamentally alter our understanding of life, death, and divinity? Is the Vatican merely preserving precious artifacts of faith and medieval history within its sacred confines? Or is it, in its most profound and mysterious capacity, the ultimate gatekeeper of humanity's true story, held safe, or perhaps hidden, for reasons we can only dimly guess at? The weight of this unanswered question lingers, adding layers to the institution's already formidable mystique. Our understanding of the future, our capacity to navigate its challenges and shape its trajectory, is inextricably linked to the clarity of our grasp on the past. If a significant, foundational chapter of our story, one potentially filled with advanced civilizations, forgotten knowledge, and cycles of global catastrophes, remains hidden or suppressed, then our collective journey into tomorrow is, by definition, being charted with an incomplete, perhaps even dangerously misleading, map. We generally assume that by diligently studying documented history, the rise and fall of known empires, the triumphs and failures of scientific and philosophical advancements, we steadily accumulate the wisdom necessary to confront and overcome future crises. We believe in a linear progression, where past mistakes inform present decisions, leading us towards an ever-improving future. But if our true, deep past includes a recurring cycle of advanced societies reaching incredible heights of knowledge and power, only to be utterly reset and almost entirely erased by cataclysmic events, then our current progress might not be a steady, upward climb. Instead, it could be merely another turn on a repeating, tragic wheel. The warnings of history become infinitely more profound and far more urgent if we acknowledge the very real possibility of a sophisticated pre-flood past, a previous grand cycle of human endeavor. It forces us to reconsider the nature of progress itself. What if the lessons we think we've learned are only part of the story, and the most critical insights into long-term survival are still locked away? Some researchers propose that truly understanding a cyclical deep past, filled with instances of both incredible achievement and catastrophic loss, could fundamentally shift humanity's global focus. It might move us away from relentless, unsustainable growth and towards a more conscious, sustainable stewardship of our planet, recognizing the inherent fragility of any civilization, no matter how advanced. Could knowledge of ancient, forgotten energy sources, or sophisticated technological paradigms, once common in a pre-flood era, unlock genuine solutions to our most pressing modern environmental crises, offering pathways to ecological balance we currently cannot conceive? Or conversely, would such a revelation instill a profound, perhaps fatalistic, despair, a chilling suggestion that our eventual demise, mirroring that of our highly advanced predecessors, is an inevitable fate, woven into the very fabric of human existence? The knowledge of repeated planetary cycles, of civilizations rising and falling with great regularity, could redefine our relationship with destiny itself. What wisdom, what profound guidance, or what dire, yet necessary, Warning might still lie dormant and undisturbed within the Vatican's deepest, most guarded vaults, waiting for the moment it might finally reshape the destiny of all mankind. The quest for this hidden truth is not merely academic. It is a search for self, for understanding the deepest roots of human potential and the greatest threats to its continuation. The waters have long receded from that lost world, but the echoes of its secrets continue to ripple through time, influencing, in ways we can only begin to comprehend, the future that now unfolds before us. The weight of these forgotten pasts, whether consciously acknowledged or simply felt as an undercurrent of intuition, undeniably shapes the human journey, forever urging us to look deeper, beyond the accepted narrative, into the silent, shadowed history that still defines us.